Hi, everybody. Welcome to tonight's episode of Ramblemancy. We are joined tonight by the one and only Bee Zelda. Bee, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for letting me be
Of
here.
course.
I wanted to join, but it's a weird thing to be like, I don't know. I don't feel like we have the space where I could just be like, hey, can I join? I
Right.
should do that, but I didn't do
You
that. So
you know
thank
what?
you.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? Next time you want to be on Ramblemancy, just be like, hey, I have this thing and I need to talk about it. Ramblemancy.
Okay.
Or
hmm
Thank
even if you
Absolutely.
don't have a thing, if you just want to that's
Ramble?
fine. Yeah, ramble.
Ramble, exactly, even better.
Yeah.
Excellent.
We
But
love a good free range ramble.
um Rainy Keys says the only Mancy that rambles. That's correct.
Mhm.
Um
At least the only one in these parts.
well, welcome everybody. Hope everyone is having a fantastic evening zone wherever you may be. Um, we just have a couple quick announcements that I will remember as I am saying them. So this Sunday, actually, yeah, I'll start with that. Yeah, this Sunday, our very first Beyond the Roll will release on Patreon. So those are our little shorts, RPG shorts that we're doing. This latest one is Tales from Night City, featuring Freeman's and John's characters, Jace and Cam Phantasmic. So they'll be getting into shenanigans. So you'll be able to see part one of that on starting Sunday, and then the following Sunday will be part two, and then we will move on to recording a different Beyond the Roll short. So more info on that soon. The other thing that's some of you may have noticed, the latest episode of Infinite Horizon did not go up on YouTube today as it is supposed to, and that is because I didn't put it there, but I will. It will happen. That will go up. It's probably not gonna be tomorrow. We'll see. We could double up on YouTube releases tomorrow. I think it'll be okay. Oh yeah. Sorry. There wasn't in 2D this week. What week are we in?
I know, right?
Who
What
knows?
month? It's
Time is
February, I
time is
think.
fake.
Nah.
I know. I switched the months.
It's February
I
2021, right? That's what
no,
month it is.
the whole month of February, I was in March because I was like, let's get February over with, and now I'm in February after. So
It's
it's
March
like,
2020. That's correct, John Numa. Thank you.
It never ended.
I
My
was,
goodness.
I was actually a few miles from here in March 2020, actually around this time. So like
That's true. That's right.
spatially speaking, not far off. Then I was in another state for a while, and now I'm back here again. All over the place.
Um, right. Speaking of doubling up on YouTube releases and Into Deep, which is coming out tomorrow on YouTube, um, there will be no episode of Into Deep this week as the cast is sort of scattering to the winds, but they will be back the following week to return to all kinds of D&D shenanigans right here on this channel. Um, I think those are all of our announcements, right? They haven't changed since Wednesday, I don't think.
I don't think so. I
I
think
Hmm.
think that's
that's
everything. Yeah.
I think we're
yeah.
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 Mhm.
Otherwise, a regular week of programming this week. So you can find us at all the usual times and places, um, which I will get more into detail in at the end. For now, John, what do you got for us?
Every time you throw me under the bus, and every
I
time
actually
I'm
just
just
realized
sitting here.
I didn't actually say what we're talking about tonight, um, which is uh, which is something that else that you can do right now, John, if you
Mhm.
would like.
Yeah, no, like I got that. Listen, you've been throwing me under the bus for like years now on this show. You think I'm not ready for it? Hey, spoilers, I'm never ready for it, but we do it.
My
I don't know where the Boston hot dog vendor came from, but he, as quickly as he came, he was departed. Anyway, tonight we're talking about, I think, about frankly any content creator's favorite thing to talk about, which is community and like connecting through this wild weird thing that we do, that is content creation, which like that's such a wide umbrella of things to put underneath it. Like, it there's so much that people refer to as content creation, and so many ways in which you can build community and bring people, like rally people together around things. But like I think, and this isn't really a question or anything that I have, but I think one of my favorite experiences as a like Twitch content creator and like somebody who like lives in TTRPG land and like actual playland, like my favorite thing is watching in real time as like a disparate set of like 6 or 7 like circles that form this big overlapping Venn diagram gradually become one. Like it's my favorite thing to like trace where certain members of the community have come from and to watch them like bleed in and out into other like communities. It's one of my favorite things to see like a name that I recognize from somebody else's chat like pop into mine, and it's like, oh my god, hello. Like it's, I don't know, it's such a heartwarming thing to see that like cross community migration.
A lot of that has to come from, I mean, if we're using Twitch as the platform, rating really does help build community. And I don't know if that's ever written in like the guidelines for community, but when it comes to Twitch, it's just like interacting with other communities, talking with them, talking about them on like on your social platforms. It really makes a difference. And that's how you get those other people popping into your channel that you saw somewhere else because they saw your name and they're like, huh, that person seems really cool, and they check out their like your content and they fall in love. And I love those moments just as much.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that is in large measure like, I mean, I think there are very few actual like content creator communities that they just have this sort of like watershed moment of like everybody's just here all of a sudden. But like that is a little bit, I think, one of the elements that I think gets missed a lot when you're talking about building those little spaces, right, in the communities. And like like how basically people come to incrementally from all kinds of different sources, you know. It was one of the things I remember that when we first started out, we were really worried about, you know, like are enough people, are people seeing like our stuff? And the answer is like maybe not everybody's seeing it, like the advertisements for streams and whatever, but like enough people are seeing it that like you'll get like a little bit here and there. And yeah, it's less about being, you know, targeted, a targeted approach to like bringing people to the channel, and more about sort of the scatter shot, you know what I mean? Like, and because you never know who is going to find your content and from where. That's always like a little bit similar to what you were just saying, John, about how like I always think it's funny when like trace like you said, tracing where people came from. And I derive an enormous amount of joy when I find just the weirdest tangential connections. Like, how did you get here, right? It was
Like I think one of my favorite ones recently has been somebody who was watching like something that was like only distantly related to like tabletop games and board games that rated into Resin and so then they met Ray, and then like have now like filtered down into like Rule of Lores, and like Bill is who I'm talking about, like Rule of Lore and like my streams and Breeze. And it's like it's fascinating to me to watch the trajectory. Also, it's very fun. Like you could make a drinking game that would absolutely destroy your poor liver out of drink every time somebody says they started at Geek and Sundry a few years back. Like
I did not start there. What's everybody's origins for TTRPGs? Is that?
Oh yeah, that's very funny. That's so funny that you asked that, because I was legitimately right before we went like stream, when I like went to go fill up water, I was like, I just realized I don't actually know how Bee came into, and so like that's funny that you asked that, because yeah.
So I want to know y'all's, and then I have like, because I think there's like a top 5 for everybody, and that's one of them. Is it Geek and Sundry for everybody here? As
a viewer, yeah. For me, that was like, as one of the community members, that was kind of my it was like the like Critical Role brought me to like the rest of Geek and Sundry's content, and then like from there, Freeman and I went to GenCon in 2018 and got to meet a lot of the people that we were like watching on stream, and it was like a hugely, like, we came back and it was a hugely inspiring sort of thing where like we left and we carried the buzz of GenCon for like a couple of months afterwards, and we're like, we got to do something. We
gotta do
have
this.
to, yeah. So
Oh
Yeah,
my
I mean,
goodness.
it was that for me too. Like it was Critical Role to like Streampunks to like kind of filtering outward from there to where we are now.
yeah.
I'll admit something. I didn't know about any of this until Lucas introduced me. And Lucas sat me down and was like, we're gonna watch this. We watched a lot of things together. So I was like, yeah, let's watch stuff. Let's watch, and introduced Critical Role. And it took me like, I watched it for like, what was it, like 25, 30 minutes? I mean, it's a 3-hour episode, but I think at first I was like, this is bizarre. I just didn't make the connection. And it took me like, 30 minutes or so, like I said. And I was like, wait, this fucking makes sense. This is awesome. Why did it take me so long to think how cool this was? Because this is theater just in a different setting. I've played D&D. And so like, that was my like, oh my goodness, how cool is this moment when Lucas was like, sit down, we're gonna watch this.
This is why it's good to have ADHD friends, because they will impose their hyperfixations on you.
So true.
Yeah.
Very true. So for me, picture it, 2000 and, oh God, 16 or 17, one of those two. And a friend was just like, you listen to podcasts, you should listen to this one podcast. It's 3 brothers and a dad playing D&D.
Yep.
And honestly, I was like, D&D is stupid. Why would you even say that to me? He's like, no, like, I think you'll really like it. And I think I was like walking my dog one day and I just finished an audiobook. So I was like, fine, I guess I'll put on the Adventure Zone. I've got like a 20-minute walk. I can handle that much. And then I fell in love with it because I didn't. They do not play D&D. And that's what I loved, because I don't know how to play D&D, and I've been playing this now 5 years. I still refuse to learn the system, but that essence really, really spoke to me. And I stopped listening to them after, I think, the balance arc, but like, that's what got me into tabletop podcasting and Dungeons and Dragons.
That's so awesome.
Amazing.
Yeah. That's funny, because that is a very similar story that like my partner also got into D&D in a very similar way. I can't remember if they knew about Adventure Zone first, or if they were like listening to the Critical Role podcast first, but it was, yeah, and all of a sudden they were just like, oh, wait a second, this is cool, like similar to like what you and Freeman were saying, where it's just like, oh wait, this is very cool, I need to be part of this. And so yeah, I love talking about those kinds of things. I don't know if we ever had this actual episode of Ramblemancy, but I remember one of our mods recommended that we do like an episode on like the origin stories. And
well, like, I love origin stories. Like,
yes.
What's the origin of the stream, if I may ask?
Of this one?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Ramblemancy specifically.
I think,
because you said you've been doing this for quite some time now.
Yeah, this is actually our first regular stream that we started. We started with this. We knew we were going to go into tabletop streams, but we wanted some way of, we couldn't figure out how we were going to tap into one of the key elements of Twitch, which is the interactivity part of it, right?
Yes.
And that's so important. But we wanted to make sure that the tabletop content that we were producing was also of quality. And not that you can't do that while also being interactive. It's just that we personally did not know how to like keep that balance at the time. Now I might have different ideas about that, but that's for another time. No, so the Ramblemancy was our answer to that. I think it was Henry actually, who's no longer part of Rule of Lore. But it was Henry's idea to have this because in between, like after our we'd have our like meetings planning for planning the stream, planning how we were going to like get the equipment that we needed, all this stuff. We would just sort of hang out afterwards and just chat, and we would end up having these kinds of conversations. And so I
Aw.
think it was Henry that suggested that we just make content out of that and use that as our interactive portion of this, the thing that drew us all to Twitch as a medium, which was that interaction,
That's so lovely.
yeah. So this was our answer to that to that question.
Yeah. And like I was not originally on this show. It was like I came on after the fact. I remember Lucas, you approached me about like basically being a sounding board and like writer's room for like our APs and stuff like that. And before that, like all of my experience with actual plays and stuff like that had been like, as I described, like my little brother was watching Critical Role on Geek and Sundry in our living room, and I had seen him watching it for like a couple of days. And like he's always been one to like find a YouTube rabbit hole and follow his way through it. And so like I frequently asked him about it. I was like, but he didn't have his headphones in or something like that, and I heard them talking about like making rolls and like and I was like, wait, are you watching people play D&D? And I remember thinking that was the weirdest shit in the world, but then like 15 minutes later I was sitting next to him watching along with him. And I was like, oh wow, this is nice. And then like flash forward like not that many months later after that, I think Lucas, you approached me about being like part of Rule of Lore for like helping write what became Infinite Horizon.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
And then just the meandering path to where I'm at now.
Yeah. I genuinely like, while Critical Role was sort of I credit it for being sort of my entry point into like the streaming space. I think the actual catalyst for it was probably a combination. It was the Streampunks really, but it was like a combination of
That's so cool too.
the Shield of Tomorrow and Callisto 6, because like I came in as Shield of Tomorrow was ending, is kind of when I found them, and like I still, given how much energy I have for watching actual plays today, it's hard to imagine a time where I could just tear through one.
That's a mood.
Yeah, that's a frustration for me that I find I have now that I'm producing them. I have so much less like bandwidth for watching them, which is an unfortunate side effect of this whole thing. But but yeah, so that was kind of my thing, and I think Shield of Tomorrow had ended when we went to GenCon, and they announced at GenCon Callisto 6. And I remember, or they did some reveal. Maybe they just revealed the characters. I think it was that. I think they revealed the characters and so that was that experience, and like listening to all the like the Geek and Sundry folks who were like behind the scenes, in particular like one of the people that I found fascinating, and I was very excited I didn't get a chance to talk to him more, was Sax Carr. Is one of those people who like was behind the scenes at Geek and Sundry, and I was fascinated not by, and I'm like, Freeman can back me up on this because I remember saying this to Freeman, like I remember saying like constantly throughout our whole time there, just sort of looking around, I was like, this is incredible. Like you just feel that energy, right, of all those people there, all like 60 to 70,000 people, all of whom have at least one thing in common, right? And that energy was just like, it was something I was like, we need to figure out, we need to be part of this somehow, and yeah, so really it was in kind of meeting and talking with like the Streampunks and at GenCon, that was the real push into what this became.
Damn.
Yeah.
I really like that. For the Streampunks to have been so influential, like that's like Sam DeLev, like they're on that show. That's so wild to me because like they're just like some not that they're basic people, but they're just like folks that I just like talk to like, hey, how's it going? And these folks had just such an impact in what you wanted to create for yourselves. That's wild. Like that's powerful. I love that.
It is. And that's the thing, right? That I think bringing us back to like this the topic of tonight. That I think was some of the like I'm trying to think of it's more of a right now I've had what is more of a feeling than an actual thought. So let me stumble my way through it here. So I remember thinking like, because for me, watching the Streampunks and what they brought to their streams, and like that was something that to me became kind of like a light, right? It was just something that became kind of a light for me. And it became important for me to not just participate in it, right? But also then become it for, somebody else, right? And in that way, that's one of the things that it's funny that you bring this up because I was thinking about this recently because I actually hadn't thought about that in such a long time. And I remember thinking about how that was something that I wanted to accomplish with streaming, right? Because then I think, not that it doesn't have meaning otherwise, but in my mind at the time I was like, then all of this has meaning, right? Because you're taking and not just partaking in something, but also taking what you love about that and spreading it, and that was what I hoped to accomplish, when we started out.
My version of to kind of the overarching theme of this has really been the value of like as a content creator sharing your joy with other people so you can inspire them to create other content.
Yes. And
in 2019 when I was a part of the Broadswords, we were invited, which was a D&D actual play podcast. We were invited to a convention called PodCon. It was the last PodCon that ever happened because I guess there was a bunch of drama, but it was like a lot of really cool podcasters that attended, like the event, like the McElroys, Welcome to the Night Vale, so many, Hello from the Magic Tavern, and we were invited as guests. So I got to sit on panels with all of these people, and I had this, I was kind of like starstruck the whole time, so I didn't properly internalize a lot of the experience. But after a panel where I thought I was going to throw up the whole time, I rushed out of the room as fast as I could because I'm like, nobody can talk to me. I don't have anything to contribute. I'm trying to remember his name. He's the dad of the McElroy brothers.
Yes. I can.
Daddy McElroy.
Yeah.
There you go. Papa McElroy.
Papa McElroy. He popped into the elevator with me and he's like, I saw you up there with my son and you were hilarious. And I did my best not to throw up on him. But it was just those kind words that just inspire you to want to do more. That he didn't even say anything else after because he could probably tell how queasy I was. But it was just like incredibly sweet. And it's one of those little moments that I always think back on when I'm like, what am I even doing this? But it's like I have the support of so many people, more than just like the people that I make the content for, but for those who don't even engage in my content still can appreciate that stuff. And that is so valuable and really, really sweet. And I love to be able to have that. And I want to do that for other people now too. And I really hope I can get those chances.
Yeah, that's such a powerful part of creating, I think, and I think it's something that, I mean, not everybody goes into creating with that goal, and I don't think it's required, but like for me that always I think I went into creating for two reasons, and that's one of them. The other reason that I bring up more often is just like needing to be seen, and I don't mean seen as in like on the screen, but like needing to be like and to just be understood, right? And create creating was the way that I could do that, or that I felt I could do that best, you know. Those are that's sort of my driving force behind everything, you know. Like, I need people to understand what's going on here, because I'm not always the best at like being open and seeable. I don't know, that kind of so I had to find other ways of doing it, and creating was the easiest way for me. It was the natural means of doing it for me. But yeah, oh my gosh, I had a different thought that a question that I was gonna ask, and it's gone now.
If you have an ADHD brain like mine, if you could rewind your brain to whatever you were thinking of right before you lost it, that often works.
Yeah.
And then make those same like brain connections. If you were thinking about socks in that moment, and like thought socks got you thinking about shoes, which got you thinking about the color purple, and the color purple was related to the question, you know?
Yes.
I relate viscerally to this.
Memory by association.
It's like so many people, so many of my roommates are like also like ADHD or neurodiverse, and so like us talking to each other is like so like the like backtracking, like telling, like backtracking through the several like the chain of associations that the thing that we are the story that we are about to tell, like favorite experience.
Oh.
I actually, this is, I don't know if this is what I was thinking about specifically, but it's in that same vicinity. But I remember this is one of my favorite stories from GenCon, the first one where it was just Freeman and I that went, where we got done with one of the meetups, and we went wandering we figured, I think we had something we were gonna go do, but we had some time, and we went to go like wander the showroom floor. And as we're walking, we ran into Eric, who was looking at Eric Campbell, who was looking at a bunch of dice, and we had just left the same meetup that he'd been at, and then but hadn't gotten a lot of like time to like actually interact because there were a lot of people there, and we were walking by, and I remember seeing him. He kind of like turned and kind of like looked, sort of scanning the floor, and then saw us, and he's like, "Oh, hey guys," and I was just like, "Hi, Eric," and then we walked away, and I was just like, "What is happening?"
What happened?
I was like, "What is?"
Scream.
I was like, "Fucking, oh, hi, Eric. What the fuck was that?" Like, this was basically my exact response to Freeman. I was like, "What? What?" I just casually am just like, "Oh, hey, Eric," like it's no big deal. Like,
I love that though.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it was. I think that was a really big thing for me, right? Is connecting, like what kind of a little bit what you were describing just now, which is being in a place where you're around a bunch of people who are very very invested in this, in kind of into common purpose, right? Whether that's creating or just tabletop or whatever it is, has a way of just sort of jump starting not only your creativity, but your drive, you know, to create. I don't know. There's just something about that's just so powerful. And it's genuinely one of the things that I've missed so much about Gen Con over the last couple of years. That is something that has been just a huge hole in my life, especially considering the fact that I've only gone twice, you know, like I've been twice.
Yeah.
And we started being content creators. Like, we were like fledgling content creators. Yeah. Holy shit, Gemini Lightning.
Gemini.
Okay.
Wow. Thank you so much, Gemini.
Thank you so much.
What?
Incredible.
Wow.
Thank you.
All right, I had a point. My brain has briefly short-circuited.
Gen Con.
Right.
Baby creators.
We all went to Gen Con 2019. That was the last time any of us had been there, and we were kind of like very much fledgling content creators.
We probably passed each other.
We probably
just saying did. Yeah.
We probably did it. So, there's an internet friend of mine that I have played some tabletop games with over the last couple of years during the pandemic, that I realized that we were literally at Gen Con 2019 standing next to each other in line at the MCG booth. like going through, like while the Streampunks were also around there, which
Oh
was
my gosh.
wild to me. But anyway, that aside, we haven't, like, as a group of content creators, we haven't been to a convention since all of that began. And
Yeah, because I think what was our first like TTRPG stream started in like May of that year.
I think so.
So we were only streaming TTRPGs for a couple of months by that time we went to GenCon. So
Oh damn.
yeah.
So like, and I think like I think this like kind of conversation about like the cycle of inspiration and like that feeling that I think we've talked around of especially when you're a content creator like this, like of kind of like creating into a void. Like I'm at the end of the day, I am sitting here alone in my room in front of a ring light and a camera and a microphone, and then when I turn it off, like it kind of all vanishes. And so like I think like cons are an important part of this conversation, because so that is such a different, like very powerful type of feedback that you get, like you described Bee earlier with Papa McElroy catching you in the elevator and being like, you like that was awesome what you did up there. And like
the validation, so real.
Yeah, like just having people like know who you are, or like or acknowledge like a thing that you did is so incredibly like validating. And I think that's something that like especially during the pandemic has been maybe a struggle for a lot of content creators, not having that like that way to, I don't know, like I guess physically meet some of that community that you've built.
When I went to a convention, again, 2019 was my year of cons before, you know, the world shut down. And the first time I was in like a lobby and I heard somebody say, is that Bee, like Bee Zelda? And I remember hearing it thinking like, clearly they're not talking about me. There must be somebody else with that name. No, they were talking about me. And then like, I don't know. I just want to be like, so good weather we're having. Like, I don't know how to properly interact with people in those moments, but it was mind blowing that like, you know me, you know my voice, you don't know me, but you want, okay, hi. Like it's really cool. And you could only get that as kind of like an in-person thing. Like it's not the same when it's online. You need those feelings and those moments to really, like it's those tangible things that really tell you what like you're growing as a content creator too.
And like it feels good to read, like it's the best feeling is when somebody just randomly tweets about a piece of content that you made. It's so like looking over and seeing that somebody has just tagged you in a tweet or made a clip or like or oh my god, if some like anytime somebody makes like a clip edit, like somebody makes like some little edits to something or makes a gif out of something, I melt. Like it's just the most heartwarming feeling. And that's all super validating too. But just like there's that cons are like a different, very like imminent present reminder of like the effect of what we do. So
it warms my heart.
Like one of my favorite things, some of you in chat have done this, so you'll know what I'm talking about. But one of the things, because like we were saying, in since we've really kind of come into our own as content creators in the TTRPG space, we haven't had any cons that we could go to. So like my only experience with that is when some people have come and are like, oh hey, I just found Infinite Horizon and I'm already like halfway through the first season, and then they'll just like as they're watching, they'll just like post in the Discord like their reactions to stuff. It's my favorite thing. I love that so much. Like I said, some of you in chat right now have done that, but yeah.
A couple of people have gone back recently and rewatched like all of Dungeons and Dorm Rooms, which is our very first AP like, on the channel.
Bless you, because
bless all of you.
Bless your soul. Bless your soul.
Boy, was that rough. We didn't know what we were doing back then.
Ooh, y'all gotta start somewhere.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
The only thing I'm 100% sure I knew about was how to organize the sound cords on the floor so no one would trip on them.
And that was so exceptionally helpful. because
Yeah.
9 times
Rooms?
out of 10, the person
Rooms?
tripping over them was this guy. So I'm now sorry. I'm suddenly having flashbacks to like my mess of cables next to me, like
Yeah,
where
I
I
tried
was.
to make that
Yes.
not a nightmare.
No, you successfully made it not a nightmare. I was the one who made it a nightmare. You came and fixed all of my problems.
As someone who is like constantly like shifting their feet under their desk and like doing the foot
Yes.
on the pedal thing, yeah,
my
I
God.
needed the cords to be duct taped down.
Yeah. Rooms? Yes, thank you, everybody.
Rooms?
I it's been so long. It's been so long since we've invoked the Dungeons and Dorm Rooms meme.
Yeah. For context, there was a point when I would introduce the stream where for some reason, inexplicably, I just started saying it. Welcome to tonight's episode of Dungeons and Dorm Rooms. I don't know why I started saying it that way, but then it just became like a thing where like I would say it and then chat would just echo it, and it was great. It became like
that's
the
wonderful.
thing. But yeah, no, it is. And honestly, here's the secret of content creators: is we just like to have our we just like to have our babies validated or acknowledged. Forget validated, acknowledged.
Yeah. Don't even tell me how cool the thing is.
Just like,
just
hey, I watched
acknowledge
it.
its existence. Yes.
Hey, I watched that.
Yeah.
Oh,
That was a thing.
hey, you sure did make that. Yes, I
Yeah.
did. Thank you for noticing.
Even just somebody like talking about it, like not even being super positive, just being like, oh yeah, so like, you know, earlier this week I was doing this, and like just seeing like comments in passing about like people interacting or like engaging or like hearing about like it's just it's just a good feeling.
Yeah. I think actually this is very interesting because like I see some of the conversation happening in chat right now, like Koala's talking like deep, because none of us could remember what order Waterdeep Dragon Heist was supposed to go in, so we just started calling it deep. And
Just
I
kept
think
rearranging them until we got all the same words.
right, but like that is I think also a key part of like community building, right? The jokes, the nomenclature, right? Like I remember. Oh gosh, where did I hear that? I think was this a Matt Colvillism? Oh my gosh, am I about to do the thing that I always? We should have a counter on here for like Lucas brings up Matt Colville because like John is like John says something about being a teacher. Mine is that one.
Oh my God.
But like talking about how like you know we repeat quotes from like movies like the one that comes to mind is Monty Python and the Holy Grail, right? Like but it's not. It's as a way of like recognizing others in the sort of the group, right? In the culture of the thing. It's like an acknowledgement. Like you quote a thing, it's just almost as like a like recognizes
Like a way to honor it. Yeah.
And that kind of thing. And I think that's a big part of that's something that I've found any content creation community that I've ever sort of been in for any significant amount of time has their version of that, right? And I think that's such an important part. Like we've got like rooms, you know, or like the deep, right? Those sorts of things. That is part of, and not just in content creator spaces, obviously. Like I think this is my little disclaimer, not an anthropologist, never took an anthropology class, but I do know that is a thing that like humans, we connect through those like through familiarity, right? Familiarity is hugely important to us, and having those little like shared pieces of knowledge or shared experiences are such a big part of the like making a community. Great, thanks, John.
The counter.
Anytime.
There it is. There it is.
Are getting scary good at manipulating Nightbot, and
I know this about myself, and it is that I am the goblin mod in any chat where I have a sword. It's why all of my emotes are goblins.
good.
Don't put on that innocent face, John. Yeah, I love that chat was like, John is creating the command right now. And then like I saw that, glanced over, just like gave a little knowing smile, and then
And then there it was.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, like
now
that.
is the time of night where John loses his privileges. Yeah. Somebody needs to revoke my Nightbot privileges.
I would never do that because I hate dealing with Nightbot. So
I've just like over a long period of time doing a variety of things like like here, and then like modding for Bree, and then also I learned a lot about Nightbot when I was over on Lisa Penrose's channel for Arcana
cool.
last year.
Mhm.
The like bat charity, the witchy TTRPG like bat fundraiser charities, like, you know, online con that she did for her birthday. And I helped, like I was a volunteer mod for that, and I learned a ton about running chat bots that weekend.
I love that.
So
that question has not come back to me yet. John,
Sorry if you can hear my cat meowing.
I was wondering what that was. I was
She
like,
screams.
Yeah. No, brain went blank.
I could show you my cat.
Yes, please. I think
please do. We
Okay, hold on, let me grab her.
We have in our code of conduct is actually please show us your pets.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
True.
Predictably enough, Amethyst Cat Lady says, "Cat, you say? Oh my god."
Cute.
Our very own Amethyst Cat Lady.
He's a lot of cat. Like,
Wow.
Oh my god, and he's just a big noodle.
oh yeah, she does not mind being picked up. I mean,
Yeah.
Amazing.
she'll scream into the mic too every now and then.
Oh,
quite nice.
Amazing.
Oh, yeah. Oh, the little slow blinks.
She's purring. Oh
Yeah.
That's a mood.
Yeah. The big slow blink.
This is now a
Slow
stream
blink,
cat.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Her name is Princess Tingle, Lord of the Loaf, first of her name. She's got more to her title. Like, she hangs out in the bathroom, and I've dubbed her something bathroom related, but I wrote it on her cat, like her cat food.
Yeah. Why did I know that was coming? The moment you started talking about the title of your cat, I also have around these parts titles, a long list of titles that I was given that apparently also became a Nightbot command. So that's
You know,
That's
Matt would copy paste them into chat every so often to meme, and so I was like, we can automate this.
Yes.
Yeah. The
Oh, there's a
purring.
big happy kitty.
Oh,
She's normally fussier, but this is good. She's just really heavy.
yeah.
I don't know if you could tell that there's a lot of cat.
There's a
but
lot
she's
of
just-
cat there. Yeah.
I do
Amazing.
love when cats
Wow.
are just like very content to be handled. Like I
Yeah.
remember the barn cats that Caitlin had. When she was at her parents' farm, like she would pick some of them up, and they just like bleh.
Yes. Turn into noodles.
Yeah.
My God. Yeah, I think like speaking of chat commands, there's a conversation. Actually, I wrote something down ages ago, and when I was thinking about it, and this is actually like an interesting thing that I was thinking about earlier. But like, I think like as we're talking about memes and stuff too, like chat commands and like silly in jokes and stuff like that are one of the things that like kind of also, I think, keep people sort of engaged and like, you know, it makes the experience of being at a stream memorable, because like this is something
becomes more of a community when you have that shared experience.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, John. Sorry.
Oh no, go ahead.
Oh, I was just the thought that came to mind is, which is another thought that I haven't had in a really long time, from since our early days. But like, we aren't the what we are the content creators, but we aren't the responsible for making the community. That happens organically over time, and like that has to do with all of you. Like, yeah, we have an influence on that by being who we are and being like and doing the things that we do, but it's not us ultimately that makes the community. Like, we might have inspired it, but it's not us ultimately that makes it. And I think that is such a, I don't know, that to me is such an important part of all of this, right? Is that it's not it has never been about just those of us here on screen for me. You know, it's always been like Rule of Lore has two parts in my mind. Like there's the part of it that is the like the kind of more businessy side, like the streams, the content, that sort of stuff. And then it has the community, which is sort of a separate thing, not completely separate, obviously, but it is its own separate thing. The part of it that will never be like subject to all of the unfortunate side effects of the business side of things, right? Like the community has to always, the community in many ways is sacred, right? Like that has to change only on its own terms, not as it benefits the business, you know? And I think for me, that's the way I've always thought about it. I've separated them in my mind in that way because, like, there's nothing to me, for me personally, there's nothing that gets me out of a community quicker than, like, seeing that the community itself has changed and become sort of sterilized for the purposes of being palatable to like branding.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it loses something. Like yes, there's an element of safety, but it's not the safety of the community members that's in play there. It's the safety of the brand, and that is whenever I detect that, I start, it's not even like a choice on my part, it just kind of happens. It's just this disconnect, you know, where I'm just like no longer there.
You check out.
Mm-hmm. And that's, yeah, we're too chaotic for corporation. Fair. Like John literally got me for Christmas a shirt that says "Burn Corpo shit." So like,
Yes.
I have spent.
I almost wore that on
countless
stream
hours.
today. So.
Hey, oh, you're wearing your Genevieve shirt though.
Yes.
I have one of those in my
Dragon
closet.
shirt.
Oh, very cool.
From GenCon 2019.
Aw.
Yeah, I've watched you play Cyberpunk Red for countless hours, and we have a distinctly anti-corporate actual play that we air on our channel right now. I was like, this is the perfect Christmas gift for
Listen,
Lucas.
whether we're playing D&D, Cypher, Cyberpunk, we're anti-corpo over here.
Hell yeah.
Burn corpo shit.
I was actually thinking about getting like a neon sign that says that.
Yes, that would
I'm
be
pretty
incredible.
sure you could.
Because you can get them made for you.
Yeah, like the custom. Yeah,
Custom, yeah.
that would be
That
dope.
would be very good.
It would solve the background lighting issue and also, well, having a cool design in the back that clearly speaks how I feel. So I think how we all feel.
It's a streamer rite of passage to have uwu lighting behind you. Like
It is
like some nano leaf on your walls, some fucking
Mhm.
LED bars that throw up like, you know, pink or purple or like some combination of like the
Mhm.
RGB color palette, like yeah, or you know, to have like glowy computer, any like all I feel
And
like
keyboard.
streamer rights. Yes.
Yep, look down at my rainbow keyboard. Yep,
Yep.
check,
Yeah,
check,
I
check,
also
check.
was just looking down at my rainbow keyboard, and then if I peek over the top of my monitor, I can see the rainbow RAM and the rainbow,
Yep.
the rainbow like CPU cooler.
Oh, is it rainbow? I just chose one single color this week, and this week it's purple.
Nice.
It breathes.
It
Hey,
changes.
nice. It breathes through the bi flag.
Oh, we love our colors.
oh, we do. We do love our colorful LEDs.
Yes.
No, but yeah, no. One of the things that I was thinking about earlier in terms of like community and like engagement and interaction is that like actual plays, and I don't know that I've seen conversation about this before, but I don't know that I've seen anybody like come up with a particularly like good, really like solution for this in terms of Twitch. But like Twitch is kind of an inherently interactive medium,
Mhm.
right? You know, you have a lot of the reason that like people come to streams and stuff in terms of like solo streams and things is because of the interactivity. You know, the being able to like have that kind of half a conversation with the person who's doing something that you're
Mhm.
interested in. At least, you know, until you start reaching into like game streams and stuff where there's like 70,000 people in chat.
Yeah.
Like that's like you're not really there for that anymore.
Then you're talking to the other people in chat.
Yeah. And you're kind of there to watch somebody who's like very good at a video game or very bad at it, like do this.
Yeah, depending on your vibes.
Mm-hmm. But like with actual plays, they're kind of an inherently uninteractive medium. And so like I I'm just like, I'm interested to see, like, as actual plays, especially on Twitch, kind of like continue to grow into their own as a form of media that we make, like how people like kind of navigate that. I it's just it's an interesting like kind of thought that I've had, like, where
Yeah.
like there's not a lot of interaction, and I wonder if there is opportunity for that, or like how do you,
You're talking about in actual play, like TTR actual plays,
yeah,
right?
in the context of like
okay.
an actual play, like what is a I don't know if I have a question, but it's just like I think a lot about like what could we as content creators do to, I don't know, like engage more with like this interactive part of the medium from an actual play, or like from a tabletop games perspective.
I mean, I don't know if this really
Or
adds or
do
answers,
we
but
need
like
to?
I love talking in Twitch chat when I'm playing a game. I've been told by producers and GMs like try to talk a little less. But like that constant stimulation of I'm hearing voices, I'm participating in the game, I'm hearing dice rolls, and I'm talking over here, and I might be scrolling Twitter, and I'm also listening to music at the same time. Beautiful. That is a symphony into my ears. And I understand that a lot of people that does not work. So for me, that's the kind of engagement that I like in a game, but that cannot be the norm, you know?
Right.
So I don't necessarily have an answer, but I know it works for
Yeah.
myself.
The unfortunate thing, and this is something that we have talked about many times behind the scenes, and also like something that I've spent a lot of time thinking about personally. And like the thing that I always keep coming up against is that it seems like in order to get any modicum of interactivity in sort of like like as standard, as opposed to like what you kind of just described, which is sort of like individual, right?
Mm-hmm.
You would have to structure the actual play in such a way where you build it in from the ground up, but then that leaves you very limited in terms of like what you can actually produce in your actual play. Like if it's a like I'm trying to think of an example, because I know that I've tossed around some examples in my mind, but like in the past, but they're not coming to mind right now. But um, yeah, like you would have to build some kind of interaction or like audience participation you'd have to bake it into the structure of whatever actual play you're producing, and that kind of thing tends to be very hyper specific,
Mm-hmm.
and so it makes it difficult to, like, you'd either have to do the same thing over and over again in terms of actual plays, or some of them would have to be that way and some of them would have to not be that way, and you'd have to, I don't know, it's so, yeah, channel,
Channel points, yeah, like Orangitis
yeah, yeah,
said.
yeah, yeah.
That's something that a lot of the channels I'm on, they use that as
Mm-hmm.
ways for the chat to interact the game.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like they'll give guidance, which is like a 1d4, or like a bane or a boon,
Mm-hmm.
which is nice, but it doesn't feel like if I
Yeah.
was a viewer, I would want more,
Right. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
we've played around with the idea too, and like with Infinite Horizon, we never launched it because there just didn't seem to be a good way to do it. We had a lot of conversations about this back. I think it was when we were starting season 2, when we were having a lot of conversation about it. We never rolled it out because it just didn't feel right.
Mm-hmm.
It felt like it was going to negatively impact the quality of what we were trying to produce without actually addressing the thing we wanted to address. And so we never rolled it out because we basically came up against this wall, right? The wall of like, how do you even do that? And like specifically when it came to Infinite Horizon, my answer to that question was we kind of can't, because we didn't think about it when we were starting the show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it wasn't part of the structure of what we had and like visualized. But it is a problem. I think it's a legitimate thing that we, like, those of us in the TTRPG streaming space, we do have to kind of confront that and think about it, especially if we continue to use this medium, right?
Mm-hmm.
Twitch, which like the whole thing.
It's a growing space.
Yeah.
Growing,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I don't
There's a
know.
lot of
So go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because there's a lot of considerations that you can make. Like I watched on Monday the premiere of Barony of Olives, which was a pre-recorded premiere. I'm so enchanted with that game. The
Streampunks, do they do a lot of pre-recorded stuff? Because I did a pre-recorded with them too, and I loved it.
See, I've been seeing people do more and more of that. I think especially Jake over at Q10 has been doing a lot more of that lately. And for one, it seems like it is easier on the schedules of the people involved. Like it's less demanding. Like you can basically be like, okay, so for this 2 weeks or 3 weeks, we're gonna record half the season. And then like the other thing that I think was nice about it was that fully like half the cast was in chat as the show was airing. And so like B, like you were talking about, like then the cast like can be fully engaged in chat and if you know if they're present. And I think there's a certain like power in that. Like it's not the same as if like they're on screen, but like it's their ghosts, right? But they're still there in chat being like a kind of an actor. And I think that's maybe a point in the favor of airing like pre-recorded shows, is that you can have that kind of interaction there.
So having worked with Streampunks, and we did a pre-recorded show. We were doing Forbidden Lands. Yeah, that's
right.
the thing.
Yeah, Forbidden Lands.
I tried so hard to appear in chat when it was going live, and the few times I did, I would like have it on over a monitor to hear, but then I would just forget about it because I didn't have the volume playing because I don't want to hear myself. That's a nightmare. So like I like that as an idea, but that doesn't work for me, you know?
Yeah.
And like I was a music major for about half of my college career, and I am so desensitized to the sound of my own voice at this point. It's like it's a thing that a lot of I hear a lot of content creators say is like, I can't listen to my own streams and stuff. I
don't
hate
like
the sound
to. Yeah.
Like I
same. It's all
fully
right.
been there, and then like having to make recordings of myself to practice and then listen back to them to hear where I had messed up. Like after a while, I was just like, you know what, this is how I sound. It's one of the actually, and this is this is just a general, it's a good piece of general advice, but like as a singer, like you cannot listen to yourself critically while you're singing, because if you do, you'll kind of like come up short a lot of times, or like wind up having your voice crack or something, because you're trying to like modify in the instant as you're hearing it. So you kind of have to just make the sound and then go back and like, be aware of it and think about it later, or make a recording and listen to yourself.
Okay.
And adjust after the fact. And as a creator, also just generically a good piece of advice: when you're doing a thing, like you can be critical of it, sure, but like when you're doing it, just kind of like let it happen and it will work out.
That's the best way to yeah.
I remember back when we like early days, I used to do a lot of the like editing and like I would back then I would make clips from Ramblemancy after the fact, and doing that enough, I really did get used to hearing the sound of my own voice, to the point where like I no longer hear the difference between my recorded voice and my spoken voice.
That's really cool.
Yeah. I didn't notice it as it was happening. It's only now, like thinking about it, where I'm like, oh yeah, I guess I don't really notice the difference
You got
anymore.
past that.
Yeah.
Nice.
I didn't used to like the sound of my own voice either, but then I just kind of had to like grit my teeth and deal with it, because I was like doing the editing, I was doing any of the like Twitch captures and stuff like that. So eventually I was just like, all right, I've got a job to do. I just have to get over this. And I like did, and eventually now I don't even hear the difference between. But
such a disconnect for me. I hear recordings and I'm positive that's not me.
Yeah.
I know what I sound like objectively, but I don't like, and there's a reason. Like I hear myself in my own ears in my head combo.
Yeah.
And then when I hear myself on a speaker, I'm like, who is that?
Yeah, like your voice resonates in your body, and so especially you hear a lot more of like the bassier tones, and so your voice sounds so much fuller to you when you speak than it does played back to you. because you're not literally feeling your voice in your body when you're hearing it back.
Yeah. Oh heck. But I just deal with that by not listening to my stuff again. Easy
you go.
solution.
I wanted to go back up because I did see for those of you in chat I haven't been interacting as much as I usually do, but I have been
I got you
looking.
covered.
Thank you, Bee. I have been looking. But I wanted to point this specifically out, which is Edge of It said a little earlier, like that there's something nice about the actual play being focused and everything else being chaos, and I think that's like I agree. I think there is something to that, right? To have that sort of breadth of content, right, where you can sort of span that spectrum, where you have the very focused, like this is the very focused, we're all in it, we're here and producing something, and then you've got this, right? Then you have this, and
Yeah.
there's something to that for sure.
Mhm.
But I also think it's nice to switch those things up every once in a while too, right? Where you have the actual play be chaos and somehow Ramblemancy. Never mind. I was gonna say it's never gonna happen.
Don't kid yourself.
Never gonna happen. But you know what I mean.
No.
Like the some of the other stuff being a little bit more like focused and But yeah, we ooh, that's a good reference, Nico. I think Callisto 6's Measure Z is a good guideline for audience interaction with AP. That's a good. Okay, so for those who don't know, back when
Yeah,
Callisto 6 was doing their thing, there was in the fiction of the world, there was this thing called Measure Z that was it was a piece of legislature that was passing or was being voted on, that would effectively either cement corporate control on the city or sort of divest like the city from like the corporate control, the control of the corporations that kind of came in and saved the city after like natural disasters took place.
Okay.
And so what happened is when it came time in the story for like when it was voting, the day for voting on Measure Z in the story, it was the audience who was actually voting on that, and that was basically something that I remember Eric saying that was going to make the difference between whether Callisto 6 continued to be whether it leaned into the cyberpunk elements of its genre origins or the more superheroic type area, and it kind of would depend on the vote. And of course, the audience being who we were, we just overwhelmingly voted for the more superhero kind of hope punk stuff, sort of thing. But that was a really interesting thing because I remember what I find most powerful about that is not the impact that we had on the direction the story took, but the thing that I find the most powerful and compelling about that is thinking about what if it had gone the other way? What would it have looked like if it had gone the other way? And I think that's so powerful, right? That is what is compelling to me, the what ifs of a situation.
Yes.
And yeah, and I think that's true in a campaign too, right? Having those moments that where maybe the party hit a dead end or something like that, and they're like, well, we can't really do anything with this, and then they move on like, oh, what if we had done this other thing there? What would have happened? That. But yeah, that was a good reference there, Nico. I appreciate you bringing that up because that I think is probably one of the best ways that I ever saw audience participation incorporated into an actual play.
Yeah, if that could be replicated again, that'd be very cool because I like that kind of engagement. That feels nice. That feels like it has weight to it.
Right. Yeah. And like I wonder if there's even a way of doing that where you don't have to incorporate it into the fiction of the story, right? Of the fiction of the game, but also just have even a certain amount of audience influence over the direction, not necessarily narrative direction the story takes, but more thematic direction the story takes.
Ooh, okay.
I wonder if that might be something to think about.
Yeah,
this is why I love Ramblemancy, because sometimes, listen, the chat, there's a lot more of you than there are of us, and collectively, that therefore, on average, you are smarter than we are. So, like, you come up with cool ideas that I have to sit and go, yeah.
The degree the degree to which content creators crowdsource their brain cells.
Yes.
Because we just don't have
Oh,
that many
yes.
of them is the thing, you know? Like
we
really
kind
got a
of just like
finite.
we kind of just play hot potato with like all of us play hot potato with like the one.
Yeah.
And so like if somebody else has it at a given time, then like chat, you just have to fill in the gaps for us.
I think
What?
I
Oh my gosh.
Sorry,
think
I couldn't resist.
This is a good point that Nico's making. I think the reason that it hit that hard was because it was treated as being part of the fiction. And that's probably true. That is my suspicion also. But I wonder how that would be I think you're right that would make it hit harder. But I also think that makes it harder to replicate because you're not always going to have those things in the I'm sorry, my brain just went off in like 6 different directions and just
That's okay.
and then
It's
just caused
surreal.
a stop. It just caused it just fully just dial tone, you know? Yeah. Yeah, definitely something to think about. Oh, that's really interesting. Edge of It is that was probably influenced by the old Batman comic where the audience voted on whether Robin lived or died and everyone wanted Jason Todd. Is that why that happened?
Really?
I didn't know that. Is
We
that
are-
true?
We are all members of today's lucky 10,000 for that fact. Oh my god.
Huh.
That's so funny. So real.
Oh my gosh.
It's one of my favorite XKCD strips. Was like I don't read Randall Munro's XKCD consistently anymore. It was one of the very first webcomics I started reading back in the webcomic boom. But like one of the comics was basically like where he crunched the numbers on like for any given fact about how many new people every day learn that fact. And you know, there's obviously a significant amount of like speculative math that's occurring there, but the strip was basically just like talking about people who are like, you know, I don't really understand when people are like, how do you not know that? Like, you know, reframing it as like, you're one of today's lucky 10,000. Like,
I think I've read that. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh my
Anyway,
goodness.
As someone who used to be a teacher, it is always, I love being one of today's lucky 10,000, US based lucky 10,000. Yeah. Based on the US population. But
that makes sense. You'd have to have sort of like some kind of limit on that in order to make those kinds of predictions. But yeah,
It'd be like lucky 3,000 in Canada. We don't have a lot of people here.
Yeah.
I'm my brain is just reliving the webcomic boom in my head now.
That was a time.
I am really
I still read Questionable Content, which was a slice of life webcomic that I started reading way back in like 2008 or something.
Oh my god.
I am really taken with this idea of like audience participation through like determining thematic direction. I think that's really interesting.
Polls and votes in Twitch chat.
Yeah.
But my issue with that, I think it works, it's fine. But my way of viewing a lot of Twitch shows is I'm in and out. So I miss a lot of polls. Hyper RPG used to do a lot of polls for their shows. And I liked it, but again, I'm in and out.
Right.
But it was good. It was a good way to have that kind of engagement.
The nice thing about when they did it on Callisto 6 is that they had the Geek and Sundry platform, so that what they could do with that was like the poll was not in the stream. They sort of hosted it on like the Geek and Sundry website, I think, or something like that. Or maybe it was like a Google form or it was some kind of like yeah, it was so it was hosted separately. Yeah, it was in between episodes. In fact, I think it was in between seasons, wasn't it? Because like it was at towards the very end of the season that it was happening, and then we didn't actually get to know the results of it until the second season started, which was torture, but it was incredible.
I love that.
Yeah, That's kind of interesting.
Between
Now
seasons, yeah, damn.
I am now turning over this idea in my brain, and this is
Right?
not the
It's just
time
like,
to
I
do
should
it.
write some of these down. You
Yeah.
should write some of these down.
As our chat will no doubt remind everyone and inform you, B, I don't write things down because if I do, they are no longer in my brain, but I will also not refer back to my notes.
Oh no, your
So-
brain works like I'm covered. My office is covered in sticky notes. I only remember what they are when I happen to be like, oh, I have sticky notes there.
Yeah.
Oh, I got some there too. Oh, that was important. Ooh, that's late
Mhm.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah, my similar the pile of
Yes!
index cards that is spread all over my desk. Also, this one that I just wrote angsty glow stick wizards on.
Yep.
That's beautiful. I
I
hope
have
you remember that
continued
one
to keep.
forever.
The
These sticky notes are the best, right? Because if I can get them on it, if I can just get them. Okay, hold on.
Oh no, you have those ones. Ah!
Oh, well,
Oh god, I would be
Accordion-
sitting there fucking like playing the accordion with them at
I
my
just-
desk the whole stream.
I'm not playing the accordion, folks. The accordion played me
Oh,
in
it
this chapter.
Yeah.
But this is what I do love them though for that reason. At the same time, I do love that because I can just like ooh.
That's mildly
It's like I'm a-
satisfying.
It really. Oh God, it's like I love doing this with a deck of cards too.
Yes, the sound that it makes.
Except this is like cheating because they're attached. It's like that trick deck that you can look like you're doing like a thing, but you're not. Oh gosh.
the most infamous incident of me not referring back to my notes is when I had an like on stream, I had a note that I had written myself ahead of time and put it right here in front of me, bright pink sticky note right here, for as a reminder to like bring up somebody's birthday on stream, and it sat there in front of me the whole time, and my brain just sort of like, this is the worst.
Edited out?
It just edited it out because it had been there for a while, and so it's just like blended in. And so I was even looking at it at one point. I just was not, going the extra step of reading the words on it. And so,
Oh goodness.
you have got to be kidding me, John.
A gray Jedi.
When did you do that?
About 45
Jedi
seconds
Brain.
ago.
Shut the fuck up. I'm not rehashing this again. We did it last week. You have to wait at least another year before I give my rant about Grey Jedi.
I just had to make the command to heckle you because it's become enough of a meme at this point. So
It sure has. I don't even get that upset about it. It's just that now, on principle, because people ask me about it, I'm just like, don't even look at me.
Though.
Don't even look at me. Anyway,
I'm on my Nightbot game tonight.
You are. It's really good.
I hate this. Yeah. Sorry, my fully derailed.
You
The rail
don't
is
even need
gone.
to apologize.
The
You
rail
know
is
that.
yeah. There's
I thank you for the clip. And John declares violence.
Jesus.
I did choose. I woke up and chose violence today.
That's correct.
Oh, that's great.
Oh my gosh. No, you know what? This is interesting. This is a little bit separate from like the topic of like community and that kind of thing stuff, but it is still related to content creation, which like something that I've been thinking about and turning over a lot more, actually in large measure after having some conversations with Jake over a few times, is having a lot more, like when we first started streaming, I was much more interested in like the typical, like the stereotypical campaign, right? You bring the campaign and you stream the campaign on here. It's just maybe with some elevated drama for the sake of for the performative aspect, right? But lately I've been thinking about a lot more like weird experimental kind of like TTRPG streams, and that's something that I'm fascinated by, right? Because I think it's like you said earlier, B, that it is sort of a growing space, right? But and within that, I think is also the fact that we're still largely trying to figure out what works,
Yep.
I don't think we've gotten there yet. Like I don't think and so one of the things that has kind of always been one of our guiding principles, but it's also something that Jake said that validated that and then really just sort of stuck with me, is that you kind of have to keep innovating or you stagnate, right? You innovate or you stagnate,
Yeah.
and you just end up doing the same stuff. It's that like the cargo cult thinking, right, where you do something because that's what's done,
Mm-hmm.
not because there was any real thought that went into like why did we do this. It was just like, well, that's how you do an actual play, right? And so I think about that a lot, and especially a lot lately, thinking in terms of like non-standard kind of actual
Mhm.
play material. And I don't really know if I have any like real point to make about that. It's just something that like I was thinking about, because we are sort of on the subject of content creation and a little bit on like how that is kind of what we've been talking around really for the last few,
Yeah.
is talking around the idea of innovating and changing how we do things in like TTRPG streams. Um, and like I said, I don't think I have a specific point to make about that. It was just another avenue, I think, to approach that conversation.
Well, from that thread, even so, this is silly, but like content creation's like a whole thing. It is a job descriptor. It encompasses so much. It is unreal.
Yeah.
And kind of like you said about like when Jake stated that you have to always innovate, you have to change the game to kind of stay relevant. So what I've been doing, and believe you me, I am old as shit, but I downloaded TikTok. I opened it up, I figured out how to use it, and it's like, how can I make this work for me?
Mm.
I'm not gonna dance, I'm not gonna sing. I don't really want to talk because that doesn't appeal to me. Like, I don't want like long-winded. I just don't feel like I have enough to say. So I'm like, well, I can't do that. I can't do that. I can't do that. Well, what are my options? So I found makeup videos. It's something I have fun with, but like my tape, like I like to do my characters for tabletop shows. But it's a way that I can now marry the two contents that I've now created to make it fit under the same umbrella. Because a lot of this is just you're trying to figure out how much can I cram into tabletop role-playing games to build this like tabletop role-playing game monster that I can now put out into the world and be like, this is my content, please consume it. And it's a wild thing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, God, so many thoughts. Like, like again, doubling back in our earlier like conversation about the cycle of inspiration. Like, we're all constantly learning from each other in this space. But also like the notion that like content creation is a job descriptor. Like, if you want to break that down into so many things, like just what any one of us here at Rule of Lore does, like graphic design, social media copywriter, like community manager, like a live stream producer, like in terms of like literally running the software, our own fucking tech support, our own fucking like marketing. Like, there's so many things that go into being like a content creator. Like, you were doing like 70% of the job of like a dozen people.
Mm-hmm. It's a lot of hats to wear at the same time, and you only advertise like 3 of those hats, really.
Yeah.
Like you only ever advertise the stuff that is most visible. Like, yes, this is my Twitch stream, but also like I built my overlay, or like I worked with a graphic designer to generate my brand and overlay and like my emotes and all of these other like aspects that go into it. And like none of that really gets talked about a whole bunch. They're just kind of there, and like it enhances the entire experience. It makes it like possible. It enables or encourages some of like the community interaction that happens. But like the part where like me being a funny person with a camera and a microphone is like just what people see.
Well, and I think so much of being a content creator, it's like at least 70% of it is the stuff that like you don't, if you do it well, you don't notice it, but you definitely notice it
Yeah.
if you don't do it. You know, like that kind of thing. And so
you
much of it is
join a
that.
stream, there's no overlays, there's no captions.
Yeah.
The camera's like 360p, and you're wondering like, what am I watching?
Like that sure
I'm sure
is
this is amazing.
a shape.
Yeah.
Like it's like lettering in a comic book where like if the letterer has done their job, you do not notice that they have done it well, and if the letterer is inexperienced, boy howdy, it can have the most beautiful art in the world. You can have the most amazing tabletop RPG stream in the world, but like if it's like stuttery and your bitrate is bad, or like your streaming software settings are banjaxed, like, well, I can't. I'm sorry, I
Right.
can't watch.
Rooms?
Yep. Yeah. Oh yeah.
That was one thing that I will say, like just as an aside, as much as I rag on dungeons and dorm rooms, one thing that I will say is I thank so much like our past selves for being aware of the fact that audio is one of the most important things that you can get right on a stream. And so like as a result, our like audio stuff really hasn't changed all that much since we first started
Nice.
streaming. So
Mhm.
Y'all, when I started podcasting, I used my microphone backwards. And you weren't hearing me.
Oh,
You were
no.
hearing my voice bouncing off the wall back onto the microphone.
yeah.
It sounded like I was talking through one of those cans on a string. It
Mhm.
was bad.
We were lucky
I didn't
enough.
know otherwise.
Yeah, we were lucky in that we had a friend of ours who like has played tabletop games with us before, but is also an audio engineer. Like that's what he does. He works with like audio engineering software. He works with the hardware. He works with he does music and like composition and that kind of stuff. And he came and taught us like didn't teach us how to do all the like the bits and pieces, but I always joke that like he taught us how not to fuck up.
Yes.
And
That makes a difference.
yeah, it was a big deal. And so like when he actually consulted when we were buying our audio equipment, he was sort of the person be like, yeah, you know what, this is pretty decent, especially for the price you're getting, or like, yeah, I wouldn't go with that. That's like it's nice and flashy, but like it's not gonna in the long run, it's not gonna help you out, and you know, that kind of thing. It was so helpful.
Oh, I'm
But,
glad you had
yeah. Yeah.
One of the things that I was super grateful to Jake for, like one of the times after Ramblemancy, I think that he was over here, was I was just talking about lighting, and then he was like, oh yeah, you could probably do that, like think about doing like this and this, and now I have
This and
Yay.
this.
the very like pretty uwu streamer like
Yep.
setup behind me.
Mm-hmm.
So like
Again, that was help from like somebody else in the community. Like that is so good.
See, and that's
Ah,
that kind of thing
Like-
is what I like. I take my inspiration from Jake Kyle in that sense, that Jake is someone who, like, if you approach Jake about, you know, tips on, you know, whatever, you to quote Community, you ask him to pass the salt and he'll hand you a bowl of soup, right? Like yeah, and that's because Jake is one of those people who genuinely wants to make the space better for everybody, you know, to like make sure that everybody, and share, you know, knowledge like about, you know, anything that you gained over the years,
yeah.
sharing that around, because like that's how you make the space healthier for everybody. If everybody's just like hoarding their knowledge, like
Nothing gets better.
nothing gets better. Yeah.
genuinely something that I think that I would like to do sometime is just take one of my streams and be like, okay, this is how I do this. This is what it looks like.
Mhm.
Like stream from my phone or something, and just walk everyone through like, okay, this is Streamlabs. This is like I'm gonna like this is like hook my phone up to my computer so I can get a different camera and like take a tour of my setup and be like, here are all of the pieces. This is the order in which I got them. Like, you don't, to preface this, you don't need to go buy all of these things to turn on your stream. The most important thing that you need, like the most important thing that you need is a computer that can run the stream, and that is the place that you start, and then a microphone, and then like it all comes in pieces after that. But like sometime I genuinely, I think, would like to do that, just so that like anybody who's sitting out there going like, I really want to stream, but I like, it seems so intimidating, or I don't know how, or it seems arcane. Like I want to do that. And like, whenever people have questions about it, I like, if I have the time, like at the moment, I always like to jump in and be like, hey, this is how you do it. Cause I just like, I want to be able to like pay that forward to give that back.
Yes, no, that's so important. I
Mhm.
once sat in on a panel by Griffin McElroy where all he did was cast his laptop screen and edit an episode of The Adventure Zone. People loved it because they learned so much. And he's not super chatty, but he did talk through the technical aspects and it was fantastic. Like, people benefit from that, and I don't think we do enough of that.
Yeah, that's why I like having these conversations, and we have them on Ramblemancy as much as we can, because like, even if people watching don't have any ambitions whatsoever on doing this kind of stuff, like, some people might be interested in learning how some of this stuff goes, and like how it's done, and even just, I don't know, for me, even when it comes to running games, right, like GMing and stuff like that, well, that's not, I wouldn't say I've never, but recently, as I've matured as a GM, like, I don't have any problem pulling the curtains back, like, because in my mind, the potential benefit, the potential gain of one of my players or somebody seeing how this all works in the background outweighs whatever negative impact it might have on the game, right? And for instance, a lot of people talk about being, forever GMs, and I've even made the joke sometimes, right? But like, how do you stop that from happening? Your players at the table are people who have already expressed an interest in this thing, so empower them to become GMs. Like this, and some of that is like, does involve pulling the curtain from, so that people can see what's going on in the background. Yeah, that's
Go ahead.
No, I was done.
That's one of the things that like I as a GM really like to do is like, after the fact, or sometimes during, like while I'm doing a thing, I'll be like, just so you know, this is how I designed this. And like just sharing that, or being like open about that, I think can be so helpful for that.
Yes, my version of this is safety tools. There's exit and O cards, and I love when people in like Zoom chat will message O as like a check-in, but I think there's a lot of value of doing it on screen as well, because it shows people like, oh, this is what safety tools looks like. Maybe I can bring this to my own game, because they're actively seeing us utilizing these things, and then they're gonna take those things and bring them to their own games. And same idea. I love it. We gotta teach by example.
Yeah. That just kind of like makes me think of like, my mom is a teacher, and so she will often talk about, like, she's a preschool teacher, and so a lot of the stuff that she talks about is that kind of like, not just especially with kids that young. Sometimes you have to model the behavior rather than just explain it to them, because like, there's a certain amount of it that is just going to get lost in like, just translation from like one stage to another stage of development. It just like doesn't make it across. And like, I even remember like hearing things that just didn't make any sense to me when I was a certain age, and then all of a sudden the next time I interacted with them, I was like, oh, why was that so hard? And it's that kind of thing, right? Like, sometimes you just have to. Anyway, it reminds me of like some of the stuff that she tells me from like when she's in the classroom. And yeah,
like, as somebody also with an education degree, it's kind of like that kind of interaction is the first kind of step in the process, right? Because at least, like what I was taught in teacher school is basically like the way that should kind of go is like, the teacher will do the thing and explain it as they're doing it, and then they'll hand it, to the students to allow them to basically do guided practice. So like the teacher and the students then take equal measure, and then like the teacher hands it over to the students, is like, all right, you go and ask me questions when you got them. And so like that's pretty much doing like the thank you for the teacher command. That's basically like the first step in the process. There is like when streamers are modeling that kind, like when we as content creators model those things, like we're basically being the first model and explain, like we're being the first step in that learning process for the people who engage with us.
Yeah.
Yes.
We're a little past our time, but I also wanted to address a different part of this, which is of like the sharing of how things are done behind the scenes. There's also a certain amount of it, and I hate that we're at the end of the stream when I'm bringing this up, because I think it's an interesting conversation. But there is a certain amount of showing what goes into this, right? That is it is a little bit we as creators kind of advocating for ourselves, because in a way it's like, hey, listen, this is something that I do that is very easy to sort of take for granted and to like sort of dismiss, but actually there's a lot to it. Like, and I've had I think we've all experienced something like some version of that in real life. Me also with streaming, where I've like told somebody that I do this, and they're like, oh, and then I'm like, I see the change in demeanor, and I'm like, let me explain to you what that entails, and like whether you want to hear it or not. And then I'll explain it, and all of a sudden I'll like watch them totally change they'll be like, wow, that's actually really cool. Like, oh wow, that's a lot. Or they'll be like, wow, that's a lot of work, which is also gratifying for me, because I'm like, sure is, buddy.
Right.
But yeah, it is a little bit, I think it serves that purpose as well, right? That the work that we do, which I think is important. It's always important to make sure that the work that you're doing is valued, you know? And that's in a way that is sort of one didactic and gentle way of sort of pushing that and saying, look, there's a lot more to this than just me showing up and being cool on stream or whatever, you know, being an absolute dork on stream, more accurately.
Like great example of this, _Raybird_ on Twitter, community manager for Czech Games Edition. We've had her on the channel a couple times for Ramblemancy and stuff. I think a couple times recently she's done threads of what her day looks like as she's doing things, like from the moment that she sits down at her desk for the day to the moment that she clocks out to go watch the Great British Bake Off, like thank you for the Ray emotes, edge of it. But like I think that kind of stuff is so helpful in that regard, in terms of like advocating for yourself as content creators, is like, this is what my day actually looks like.
I've never thought of doing that.
Yeah, it's something that I've been thinking about doing, like on one of my stream days or something like that, where I'm like, okay, so here's what I'm doing as a freelance writer and editor in the tabletop RPG scene, and somebody who streams sometimes. Here's what my day looks like. Like, so from the part where I sit down with my breakfast and I like go through and check all of my Discord DMs, and then like if there's any like design work in terms of making announcements for like any of the places that I do stuff, or like making the literal graphics for those, and then like in just the myriad of things that I do before I reach over to my stream deck and hit the go live button.
That humanizes us. I really like that.
Yes it does. I think that is kind of gets to the heart of what I was trying to say. It humanizes, which is something it's really easy to do the opposite of for the people who are on your screen, because hey, they're not real people, they're just people on the screen, you know.
I think the communities that we run in, we are very blessed to have and to have cultivated like a community where like there's kind of an understanding, like we are people with cameras and microphones, and
many of whom maybe should not have been given them.
We've been over it tonight. I should not have commanded Nightbot, but I have it. But my train of thought just kind of like off of a cliff. But that's kind of just where I was, I guess, kind of where I was going with that, which is we are I think very blessed in this corner of the
Space,
internet
yeah.
to have people who I think on the whole view us as more than just like a live YouTube video.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I
No,
would
that's
agree with
really
that.
kind. Shout out to everybody watching. Y'all are amazing.
You really are. When we say we could not do what we do without you, we do mean that.
It's not just a line. Like, that's true. Like, we literally
Yeah.
couldn't.
Mhm. And
Yeah.
that goes so far beyond monetary support of,
Mhm.
of streamers. Like, obviously that's great, and it helps us like literally keep the lights on and buy
Oh,
groceries
please.
and all of that.
I would have burnt out forever ago if we didn't have like an active and engaged community like that. Just
Yeah.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that would
Yeah.
yeah.
Like making clips of our stuff, talking about it, just being here, or like showing up on our like in the likes and comments on YouTube videos and VODs. Like there is something satisfying about going to highlight the VOD for future and seeing the number of views
Yeah.
that it's had.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just
Aw.
yeah,
Well,
an Ouroboros of love and support.
This is not the best.
on that note, which I think is a very good note,
Mhm.
that kind of brings us to the end of the stream. B, thank you so much for being here with us.
That's my fan.
Oh,
I
hell
don't
yeah.
have it here. Fuck.
Excellent.
I have a fan that says support local drag.
Ooh.
Oh, that's so good.
Yes.
Oh,
It's
that's
really
so
nice.
Excellent.
I keep this one handy because I do actually have a Thorpe emote now. So like
Ah.
gotta have it for a bit.
Right.
Oh, so good. The Thorpe though. I live for that sound.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
so good. Like that.
Oh, yes.
B, literally any time you want to come back.
Yeah.
We're,
The
yeah.
only barrier is like it's gonna be midnight my time, but like I'm gonna go play some video games after, so it's not like a big barrier.
Right. Well, thank you, B, for being here, and thank you everybody for joining us this evening. We went a little bit over, so I am gonna skip right through our ending announcements. But the important part is that you should be in the Discord if you aren't already, because that's where you're going to be able to keep up with everything that's happening. All of the announcements, you'll get them right away. All of our our weekly scheduling of programming, all that sort of stuff, is always goes to the Discord at the beginning of the week. It's where you're going to get announcements for additional content, such as from our Patreon and all that sort of stuff. So that's where that goes. You're
Also,
gonna
a lot of times after Ramblemancy, if there's any links that people have posted or like articles and stuff that people have referred to, like with this one, with the Bees like Roll20 blog, I did put that in our Discord in the Ramblemancy
thank
channel
you.
so that you can find it afterwards. I typed it in chat earlier, but I want to make sure I say it so that people who are listening along can also have the heads up.
Yeah. And also after Ramblemancy, you can go to the Ramblemancy channel and watch Nico just be absolutely disrespectful to me in particular.
Oh,
That's good.
Yeah, but yes, thank you, Geek Outs. Speaking of Patreon, there is a Patreon survey. It is still up. If you are a member of our Patreon, or if you are not, it is worth filling it out because it will help us improve what we are doing with our Patreon and bring you more content that you would want to see there. So it helps us help you, because we are not guessing what you want. We're just asking you. So fill out the Patreon survey, and yeah, I think that's all I've got. We'll be back here Wednesday for Infinite Horizon, 6 p.m. Pacific time, and we'll hopefully see you for that. But if not, we will see you the next time you decide to come roll with us. Good night and good zone, everybody.